Welcome to Schooling for Spirituality. The Flow is a delightful mix of insight, divine inspiration, and humor, where wisdom meets earthiness to help your ongoing spiritual growth and transformation. Follow the flow of enlightenment and explore everything spiritual through the deepest self-inquiry, as student Lisa Berry asks master spiritual teacher G.P. Walsh the kinds of questions you would ask an elder, a wise man, or a sage, and receive direct, simple, comprehensive, and deeply human lessons and teachings. From transcending the experience of separation, releasing old conditioned patterns and wounds, and alleviating suffering, to demystifying esoteric practices and revealing one's true purpose and innate freedom. Welcome to the Flow of Enlightenment. Transformation is all there is. Well, welcome to the Flow of Enlightenment, everyone. And sometimes the flow will just flow whichever way it wants. Hello, GP.
Hi, Lisa. It does do that.
Well, today is a show that literally includes every person on the planet because it poses the one question we've all asked at some time or another. And it's not just because you picked the cutest little picture for this, GP, of the squirrel. But actually, I don't know if it was a squirrel or a chipmunk. But the question that everybody has asked or will ask at least once in their life, if not 1,000, is, why me? Why me?
Yes, indeed. Everybody has.
Yes. And with that question, I love that you said this. There is a form of declaration around this. It's not just why, it's more than a question, because it's why me, why is me? Why can't I change it? You know, there's so many things that I love that you did something, you broke it into two questions. So I'm going to start there with you, GP,
Okay.
is you highlighted that. Like, so why is this happening to me? is two questions. And can you just, I want to jump in there because I loved how I never thought about it as two questions before when you say that.
Yes. Well, it is, right? And why is this happening? That's the question everybody's asking, right?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Why is the world the way it is? What's wrong? Why is everything broken? Why is my life not working? And it's like the little kid asking mom for the cookie, and mom says, no, you can't have it. And then the little kid says, why? And then mom is very nice, a good mom, and she explains it in great detail, why that is, and the times of day, and the sugar, and dinner, and all sorts of stuff. And then the child responds, yeah, but why? And then again, but why? And keeps going. And finally, mom recognizes that the child has no interest in why. They want a different answer. Mm-hmm. They want a yes. And they will keep going as long as mom lets them keep going. And then mom always puts her foot down. It's the final thing it says, because I'm the mom, that's why.
Yep.
That's to end the conversation. Because the child will just keep going, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't change when you get older. We still ask the same thing now, except now we're not asking mom, we're asking God, we're asking the universe, we're asking, whatever, a million sources as to why things are the way they are. And there's an enormous amount of curiosity, there's an enormous amount there that is actually very positive, but for the most part, all it is a way of expressing our resistance. It's a way of saying, I don't like what's happening. I want it to be different, just like the child. I want a different answer. Why is this happening? In other words, how do I make it different? How do I make it what I want? And if you look at it that way, it takes on a whole different kind of flavor. So why do things happen the way they do? Our minds are linear, right? They want to look back in time and say, okay, this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this is why, right? Mm-hmm. I was embarrassed when I was in third grade. I forgot my lines in a play, and now I'm terrified of public speaking. Right. So we want to draw this nice little line of causal connection. But of course, why you don't? At some point, you got to go, okay, well, why did I forget my lines? Oh, because I did. Well, why didn't I study? And you can keep going back to where? To the Big Bang. Go all the way back. Right?
The why backwards.
Why? Yeah. Why are things the way they are? Because the universe is the way it is. Period. This is simply the way it is. Or as Nisargadatta says, everything causes everything. There's simply no way you can trace a nice little line of causal connection to any event ever. All the things that have to happen in that moment for this particular form and manifestation to take place. I mean, if your father had the tofu salad instead of the steak the night before, you might have been a boy.
Right. Yes. Those phytoestrogens in the soy.
Yeah, because it'd be different kind of stuff going on in the body, a different thing, and a different one of the different little sperm thingies would have won.
Right.
Would have won the race, and the whole body, and now your whole identity would have been different. Your whole experience everything about your life would have been different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when you think about it, the tiniest little things. Well, why did he have the steak instead of the tofu salad? I mean, you could just analyze it until your head just falls off, which is what we try to do, trying to control it. And that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to find a way to get control. Everything is the way it is because everything is the way it is.
I just wrote the word control down before you said that, and then you said that. I was like, of course. And so with that control, though, this is the neat thing. Do we ever just want to know the why so that we go, okay, he ordered the tofu salad over this salad. So if we want him to continue to order the tofu salad, we'll use our marketing and we'll to try to pre-control, like set things up in our favor for the future. Yes. Do we ever get to control that or no? Because if we didn't...
No, we could go into business, starting the nutritional pregnancies. That way, have the tofu salad and that'll make sure you have the boy.
Yes.
Right. I mean, that's what we do with this kind of stuff, and it's insane. You can't. There are too many variables. Every moment is a variable. Is a unique combination of an infinite number of variables that all come together in this particular way to make this particular moment. It cannot be controlled, and it's the height of arrogance and ignorance to think that we can, and yet we try over and over and over again.
Is there such thing as prevention?
You're really faint, Lisa.
Oh, I'm faint?
Yeah. Your voice is kind of low. Can you get a little closer to the mic or turn it up or something? Because maybe it's just me, but
I'll yank that up there. Yeah, does that help?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking about is there such thing as prevention then?
No, not really.
GP. No.
Not really. No. We want to think there is, and on a very small scale. I can go this way instead of that way. Right.
Right.
There are ways in which we think we can avoid things, and it might even appear that we do. Right. Okay, I'm going to drive down this way because this road is all a lot of potholes and there's a detour, so I'm going to go this way and I'll get there faster.
Right.
And then we think that we've accomplished something if it happens to work that way. But of course, then you find out there's an accident over there and it takes you half an hour longer. You simply can't predict.
Right. Now,
do it.
What about on these kind of bigger scale that we really do believe we have impact and influence? And maybe that's as far as it goes. But when you talk about driving, are we not preventing more accidents by not drinking and driving? Are we is that in our, we're controlling that. Or if we set a timer, we won't burn the cookies.
Yes, but for me that doesn't work. I can set the timer and go, there's the timer, and I still burn the cookies. So there's no guarantees. On a certain scale, it appears as though that it's working. But if you want to look at it existentially, if you want to look at the big picture, it does appear as though in my life there are certain little things I can control. But the idea that I can control everything, the outcome of my life, the events of my life, is patently absurd. And the only thing it does is draw your attention away from the only real question that matters, and that is actually, who am I? I'm always busy trying to control things why don't we ask the question, well, who am I? Why is it I want to control everything? Do things need to be controlled? What's so terrible that I need everything to be different? We don't question that. Right? We just think we need to get control and we never question, why do you not like this life? What's wrong with right now?
With that minute, the current now minute.
Yes, what's wrong with it? That somehow you have to control it and turn it into something else. This is where we should be really putting our attention, not on whether or not we can control something. And just leave that to God. Leave that to the universe, if you prefer that term. Or you leave it to Buddha, or leave it to Jesus, whatever you want. But the idea that somehow I am controlling the flow, right, is I mean, really think about it. You really think you're controlling the flow of life? You really think you have manifested every event that has come, right? There's, there aren't any events that have taken place in my life that are on my vision board.
Right. I'm wondering if what we're doing is we're trying to control the comfort of our lives, like our preferences. We're trying to control because we think, yes, you're right, that we can. Therefore, so if I can control what I eat all my life, that I can control. Really, it's not that I want to control what I'm eating; it's that I want to control my level of health and how long I live and the degree at which I'm able to enjoy experiences. But you're right. I could eat perfectly, be all set up, but then I could just be a miserable F, and then just not, and go,
That's correct. And you could die anyway.
Right.
My mother smoked for 60 years. She did not die of any kind of illness that had anything to do with smoking.
And you were like, why can't I fix this?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay. So, and everybody said, oh my God, 60 years. And it's like, no, I said, no, it didn't happen.
Right.
We can't predict these things. Again, even that is trying to make a direct causal connection, the prolonging of life. You don't control that. You didn't control your birth. You didn't control the process of aging, and you're not going to control your death. You have nothing to do with any of it. That is simply
that's
the
such a hard
natural
one.
flow of the energy of life.
Yeah, that is such, I remember my father always saying, he goes, of course, I want to take care of myself because those are the choices that I want to make, and this is what I'll do because I enjoy it. He goes, but it doesn't mean I won't step out in front and get hit by a bus. He's always said that all my life. Yes. And for him, I either do hope he gets either hit by a bus quickly and goes or just dies in his sleep. But again, I can't control it. But this is such an interesting thing because when we say the why me and why is this happening, so why is this happening? Here, I'll put myself right on the spot here. The things that I often say I don't ever say why me or why is this happening? I always say, why is this happening again? How is this happening again? Didn't I fix this? And, and I think that's the biggest one. So then I think I go into a tailspin, of course. So I was like, okay, let's go back. Okay. And then I usually go, well, then it must be the other person or the other thing that did it. Because it can't be me because I didn't do it again. So yes. How does the question, who am I, help in a situation perhaps where I'm thinking, who cares who I am because it's not me, it's them.
That's right. That's right. Because the question, who am I, is not a debate about why things are happening. It takes you completely outside of that world of trying to control and make this or that or attract this or that into my life or build my dream life. It takes you out of that world and starts examining the energy within you that wants to control it, that thinks something's wrong, and it turns you inward, away from just trying to make what you think the perfect life is supposed to be, and which of course is all absurd anyway, because if you really look closely, they weren't even your choices. What you think the perfect life should be is purely a matter of enculturation. You were enculturated to believe that this is where you should be, and this age you have 2 kids, a good career, 2 cars, or however it's been defined in whatever culture you happen to be in, and we pursue those. We never question, my God, it's not even my desire. That was programmed into me. That just happened. Right. So this inquiry then into who am I is the road to freedom from simply being nothing more than a robotic manifestation of your culture. It's true liberation of you. It allows you to be free to really want what you want, to say yes when you mean yes, to say no when you mean no. This is the kind of true liberation. Whereas the liberation that the world, that the ignorant seek, is control over the world to make it conform to what I have been programmed to believe it's supposed to look like.
Right.
That can't end well.
Right. So that's so interesting. Like, it just makes it be like the why question. Well, I know this is going to sound silly, but we should just never ask it. It doesn't. It's a kind of waste of our time to ask why.
Well, that's what you were referring to when I kind of summed it up in the email I sent out. That there's actually two questions. Why is this happening? The first one is why, which we've just been discussing how absurd it is and what it really is after. The second question is far simpler. Is this happening? The answer is yes. Done. Now notice, the mind just has to go full stop there.
Yeah.
This is happening. Boom. It's completely different. Why is just off in the clouds, and it's this and that, and endless speculation, because there's an infinite number of variables. It'll never run out of whys. But if you just put that aside, is this happening? It's a very simple yes or no. And in that moment, yes, it's happening. There will be an immediate response to that moment that has nothing to do with why. It's free, it's open, it's spacious, it's childlike. This is happening. Boom.
Right.
Now what?
Okay.
This is the freedom of it.
Okay, so on that, we'll go to commercial. But when we come back, that's so interesting, that yes moment about, is this happening? Yeah, commercials are yes happening. They're happening now. And that's that. And you all come back. Yes. And this is a beautiful, beautiful way of answering this.
Ow, shit.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes. Co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Touch, move, and inspire. Sharing your story of how you overcame your deepest struggle will serve as someone else's survival guide. You are ready to get the book out of your head and onto the page. I'm Jocelyn Bellows, host of Breakdown to Wake Up, a live stream show dedicated to sharing personal journeys of men and women who have traversed through mazes of uncertainty, dark clouds, and dishonoring themselves, and the lessons they have learned along this path of what one can accomplish in our own self-discovery. And as a writing and life coach, I work with men and women to break through the BS of their lives to find their own voice and leaping into a life they love. It is my belief that when we share our stories of how we overcame what we have been through, it will serve as someone else's survival guide. So if you're ready to get the book out of your head and onto the page, I'd love to hear from you. Go to www.jocelynbellows.com and join me every Tuesday at noon Eastern and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
All
right. We are back into this flow, which really does seem to be going in all different directions and causing all different things. I just want to see if I have GP with me here. Okay, not quite. All right. So I'm gonna take over on this why asking question, this show here, and I'm going to invite anybody that might have their own why me, why is this happening question. Call us. We're going to have you ask the question on air so GP can help you out here. So the number is 202-570-7057. Call us. We'll know that you're there and you can ask your question. But when it really does come to the why me's, and even right now we've got some why me's going on. Why it pops in your head?
Why me?
Why did this happen? Well, can I say this on air? Can I just share what's happened? Because I would love to use this as a thing. So GP, he gets excited for these shows as I do, and spilled hot tea all over his lap right there. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That was on my vision board. Yeah, I was trying to manifest that. Yeah.
That's right. And let's say that something like that happens. Like, I guess we naturally go into why did I flip that over? How did that get there? Why did I put this there? Why is it that temperature? Can we stop ourselves from even going into those natural questions?
Well, if we realize how futile it is, yeah.
Right.
If we don't, we get this, it's habitual, we kind of get, oh my God, why I did that again. I'm so stupid. And you can just see the whole, you can just see the whole thing going. Okay, from now on, I'm never going to have a cup of tea by my side again during anything or other.
Yes.
And we can start adjusting our entire life over something we actually had nothing to do with. It just happened to be there. I happened to be here. I happened to move my hand in a certain way. It hit the cup and it happened to fall towards me. And during commercial break, I had to clean everything up and change all my clothes.
Right. You did that quickly, by the way. And now you could be a speed changer. But
I can be an actor now because I can make all those changes backstage real quick.
Oh, right.
Changes. Yeah.
And so when people say it was meant to happen, so first of all, that actually makes that statement the most truest statement is that was meant to happen. Yeah, well, yes, it was because it happened.
And that's the only criteria, right? Was this supposed to happen? Yes. How do you know? It happened. That's it.
Right.
Now notice, when you actually grasp it, your mind just stops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't want to, right? It starts, it's looking for, right? I mean, it wants to get into the game. But when you just put the why aside and simply look at what is, the mind has to go quiet. I mean, it's a very intelligent inquiry and meditation because the mind simply has nothing to do. It's a simple recognition of this moment.
Okay. I love that you said that. It is one of a simple meditation we can do. Is that something that you would recommend? Like, would we say right now somebody is listening and they're like, yeah, I just asked myself that this morning or yesterday, and they can't stop asking, like, why this? And maybe it's a very deep grieving moment. They've lost a baby. They've had something happen, and is that beneficial to go into that?
Absolutely
and how would
not.
they? Oh,
absolutely not. Because all it's going to do is dredge up all sorts of ideas, most of which, if it's a huge loss, like the loss of a child or something like that, all it's going to do is find all the reasons why you were responsible. That's all it's going to accomplish. And it's actually going to prolong the grieving period, can even go for your whole life. The fact of the matter is the humble, deep surrender to what is. That nothing happens without it. That's what is supposed to happen. And this is hard for us to grasp, especially if it's something very close to us or someone very close to us that is lost. We can't. We could never fathom why. What possible benefit could that be to me?
Right.
Well, the answer there isn't one, other than to allow you to come to terms with life as it actually is. Don't hold on to anything and make everything precious in this moment. Because you didn't cause it to come, it's a pure gift, and you have no control over it going. This makes everything infinitely rare and valuable. Every moment, every person, everything, every object, every event becomes incredibly valuable because, infinite value, because it is now detached from any kind of relationship to anything else, any point of reference. This moment is not a stepping stone to the next one. It is the gift that is now.
That's an interesting. That's a very. So it's almost like life is a practice. Things. Sorry. Is it I'm supposed? It's supposed to be this way, or I'm supposed to be this way? Does that matter?
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? Aren't you, life?
I felt more responsible when I said I'm supposed to do this versus it's supposed to be like this.
It's supposed to be like this. Every thought. I mean, do you know what your next thought's going to be?
No.
No.
I really don't.
You don't control anything. So the only intelligent thing to do is to surrender to the flow of life as it is. It's the only intelligent thing to do. Everything else is some kind of a resistance. And resistance, by the way, is the functioning of the nervous system that we have named the ego.
Okay. So the ego is the why asker.
Yes, of course.
Aha. Okay. We got this now. And
yeah, God doesn't ask why.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Imagine that. Yeah, no,
Could you
he's never
imagine
going to
God
get
second guessing herself? Jeez, what was I thinking? What the heck?
I never want to hear that. Oh my God. If ever somebody was going to feel nervous on this planet, that's when. If you hear God asking that, you go, oh boy. Now,
big change is about to come.
yes. I like that you said it's a practice to experience life as it is. So
yes.
It's an opportunity to practice life as it is, because that's really, if we are here to harmonize. Oh, I love that you said that too, that we are here to harmonize with what is happening.
Yeah.
That's the flow.
That is the flow, because life is nothing but that flow. And if you recognize that, you'll learn that life is about learning to let go.
So the difference between learning to love something and accept it, then allowing and going with the flow. Because when I feel like when people say, well, you know what, you're going to have to learn how to love it. Or if I said to myself, well, I better learn how to love this because this is what I got. I mean, it doesn't feel as good as
it's
truly.
It's not possible. Yeah, that's self-deception. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Yeah, if you truly surrender to the moment, if you really surrender to the moment, there's not even any need to do that. You're already in that state, because you there's nothing else you'd want.
Right.
So in that case, you love it because this is what it is, but you're not holding on to it because you know it's going to change.
Ooh, that's the beauty of things too. Is even if you liked or didn't like something, so either way, it's going to change anyways.
Yeah. And of course, the why do you like it or not like it? That's always some kind of self-referencing. That's egoic.
Yes.
What's there to like or not like? Do I like a mountain or not like a mountain? Do I like the breeze or not like the breeze? I mean, what?
I really don't like the wind, I have to say. But there's reasons, and I guess that's a why. So, okay, can we go there? Is that ego to have preferences? Because it's different than discernment. I mean, I do appreciate the wind for other things. I mean, it blows the seeds off plants to go and pollinate elsewhere and
Well, it is if we hold to them doggedly, then it's ego, then it's destructive. Otherwise, it's completely harmless. It has, there's no suffering in preferences unless we're so doggedly hanging on to them that we refuse anything else, that we refuse to actually acknowledge the moment as it is. If that's the case, it's actually the attachment is the ego, not the preferences. They're very natural, of course. I prefer this food over that food. It's harmless. It doesn't create suffering, so we don't have to be concerned with it. It's only when it creates suffering that it needs to become a concern. So the existential question, is this ego or not ego, is only relevant if the behavior or the thought pattern is causing you suffering. Then you look at its origin, and at the origin of it you will find an egoic attachment. And so it is the attachment and not the preference that is the cause of suffering. That's the ego.
Okay. Oh, I like that. I like that. My ego is attached to having preferences, so so you satisfy both my...
Yes, it is. The preferences are very natural. Just like, your gifts are natural. Everybody has different gifts, different interests, right?
Yes.
That's always the case. But the moment I refuse anything else, right? Or I'm suffering because I'm not getting my preferences. Now it's a completely different thing. If you don't like to walk in the wind, don't walk in the wind. But if you have to walk in the wind, you might as well love it.
Right. Oh my gosh. And I feel like that's exactly, we just unraveled where the why me really stems from, which we touched on, is that we're asking, why are my preferences not met? I'm suffering. I don't, yeah.
Yes. That's where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. And it's so very simple.
Yeah.
If
now that we got there.
If you just make the inquiry.
Right. So is it more so then we do the inquiry to find out, who is the one asking why? Well, it is the ego, so we know this. So the self-inquiry is, now I just lost it again. That's right, I do have it. But where's the self-inquiry going then with that?
Well, what the self-inquiry is doing is looking at my sense, who I think I am. And who I think I am is made up of all of these ideas, these preferences, and these attachments, and these aversions, and the energy of resistance and trying to control, or trying to win approval, right? Or however it is to get things the way I want them. We look at that I. We're examining that I. And when you look at it really closely, you'll find that all the ego is a bunch of thoughts. It's not a thing. There's nobody there. But you, who are actually being, the conscious self, the true I, projects itself onto this bundle of thoughts, and in that moment you have created the sense of a separate self. There is no separate self. There's nobody there. It is only the thoughts. So there's a preference, which is just, part of life, and your preferences change over time, so there's nothing stable about them. There's nothing there that defines you, except you in this moment. But if there's an attachment to it now, and it starts to create suffering, right, you take a step back. Well, where's the attachment coming from? Who's attached? And if you look really closely, you'll find the energy of attachment, you'll find the energy of resistance, but you can't find anybody who's actually attached or resisting. So you see, it's just a pattern of energy in the nervous system. And this is how you see through the illusion of a separate self. It is just a pattern of thoughts and feelings and sensations and ideas and associations and memories. It's just a very complex package for sure, but it does not make up a self. There's no self there. It's a robot. It's like, you talk to Siri and she says, I. Oh, I don't know that. There's nobody there.
Right. Yes. Personification is huge.
Yes. And that which is is identifying, right, is the self. It's you.
Yes.
Because you really do exist. The ego doesn't. You do. But you've simply mistaken the ego for yourself, and so it seems to have a life. There's no life there.
Okay, this raises a huge question, and I might push my commercial break by a minute because this is an important one, because I love that it gets conditioning in society, and who are we at? And my question is there, I know it sounds crazy, is there an age which we don't need to do self-inquiry? Like, does a 2-year-old need to self-inquire? Could they even self-inquire? Does a 7-year-old, does a 9-year-old, is there a point where which we don't have ego yet and self-inquiry isn't necessary?
Yes, but you're so very, very young that, self-inquiry is necessary after this has all taken place. The time when they're so young, you don't have an inquiry. You also don't have language. You don't have any way of making an inquiry. Because the ego has not appeared yet. You're still the undifferentiated consciousness. There's nothing to inquire into. It has to happen later. The inquiry is a remedial tool to basically free you from identification with conditioning.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So basically, it's the antidote for ego.
Yes, it's exactly the opposite of the ego. It completely deconstructs the ego. And you say, oh, I'm not that.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. Oh, wow. That's a big moment right on air for me. Okay. Right, because, yes, I'm just imagining, like until... And is it true that as us baby humans, us people, our brainwaves really do switch over at a certain age, 7, 5, 8, whichever that is, and that's why ego doesn't sneak in, but becomes?
No, it starts way earlier than that. Yeah. It starts pre-language.
Ego does, or the switch of the brainwaves?
Well, the sense of it, the sense of being separate.
Oh, okay. Prior
to a certain point, it's just undifferentiated consciousness. It's just pure experience. There's no me, there's no you, there's no up, down, there's no things. It's just a flow of experience passing through me. Because nothing has a name, nothing has a meaning, nothing has association. The world has not formed in my mind. Right. My mind is not there, which is all the names and forms. And then at some point, there's this sense of being separate. There's a mom and there's me, like two different things. Right. And in that moment, the energy identifies itself because, well, then what am I? Right? I'm a thing amongst a lot of things, and it identifies with the body. I am the body. And that energy gets set. That's the first belief. That's the first assumption. And it's there before thinking. It is there before language. It is energetic.
Yes.
It is just an assumption that never gets questioned. And then later, when intellect begins to develop, language and that sort of thing, all of those objects of language, their central reference point is the I. I mean, there's no you without an I, or he, she, it. That's why it's first person. Everything is relative to that I, and in every individual, that I is the body. And that is where, and at that moment, from that point on, we identify ourselves with what in fact is nothing but a conditioned pattern of the nervous system.
Wow. Holy. It's almost like now I'm sad to watch a baby discover their hands. But no, I'm not. Before everybody hates me for saying that, we'll go to commercial. We'll come back and explore that. But this is interesting where our conditioning truly begins, and we can even start asking that question, which we don't even need to ask anymore, which is why me? So please, everybody, come on back as we unravel this literally to birth.
And beyond.
And beyond.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Flow of Enlightenment. As the flow is just flowing here for me, and I hope for you guys too. And I want to invite everybody to call in. Every week that we do this show, you are invited to call in and ask a question. And so 2 ways of doing that. You can email us ahead of time, which is questions@gpwalsh.com, or you can call in, which is 202-570-7057. And I was just listening to that commercial, GP, and the word coping kept coming up. How are we coping with things? And I was just thinking, because everybody's going, why is this happening? It's happening because we're trying to cope. We're trying to wrap our head around it and think that we can change it. And is there... I went from baby conversation, which I'm jumping into this one, but... Because I guess I'm back there as going, okay, so we've got all these conditions. We are who we are. We think some people can or change them and others can't. But now you've kind of leveled, like even the playing field here, right? That we all can't really do anything, or do we still continue to do things to better things?
Well, yes, you continue to do things, but you realize you're not really the one doing it. It's just life in the flow. We think we're doing things. You're not. You can say, so if I get this, I'm not going to do anything anymore? Well, no, this is an understanding of what's actually happening. If I think I'm the doer of everything, then I think if I don't do it, nothing's going to happen. It's simply not so. The nature of the human system is to create, it's to do, it's to make things, it's to also, that's not going to stop. But if you realize that what you call your life is life itself, it is the flow of life, and that you are the consciousness indwelling that is aware of it and for which it is happening, then you lose the sense of responsibility for it and you allow it to flow. And then you trust in it. The heart awakens and it begins to just trust in life, and you find that life takes care of life. That you won't go without, you won't be left behind, you won't be thrown aside. If you just drop your expectations as to what life should be, you'll find that the life you have is absolutely perfect.
So even I'm challenging here a little bit. So even the people who do feel like they've been left behind, they're homeless, they're starving, they're dying, they're suffering. Is that their resistance to it?
Yeah, well,
in a way.
When people, the only people who ask me that question are those who are not having that experience at all.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
They're the only ones who ask me that question. Because now we project, and what you just did, which is what everybody does, is you think of the worst case scenario and say, well, why would life do that? Right. So I need to accept that? No, you need to accept your own life as it is. And as the heart opens, of course, it's natural for us to feel for those who are struggling, who are having a problem. Well, and if you really feel that, right? It's not just a theoretical question of why is that happening to them. If you really felt that, you'd do something about it.
Right.
You would act on that insight. And of course, that is what you become responsible for letting in the world as it is. Don't shut it out. Don't close your heart to it because it's too difficult to look at. If you really are open to it, you'll find life responding to life. And it isn't a question anymore of, well, why, what happened to that person? Are they resisting? in a certain sense, you could say yes, but on the other hand, you have to recognize that what you experience is your thoughts about things, not the thing itself. So I look at, that's a horrible thing, which really means you don't want to experience that. Your resistance to even seeing it, right? And it's purely a projection of your mind. People look at countries that are extremely poor and they go, those poor people. That is, people in rich countries look at people in poor countries and say, those poor people, they must be having a miserable time. But if the UN does a study on happiness every so often, and it's interesting that the happiest countries in the world are the poor ones, and the rich ones are the unhappy ones, simply because the expectations and the level of materiality and the level of the destruction of the social agreement and that sort of thing. And so it's exactly the opposite of what we think it is.
Yes.
Been with some places that are really poor, they're really happy, really giving. They don't see themselves that way. We see them that way and say, what a miserable life.
And actually, it's interesting because I actually can flip that. I mean, myself and that other people. I remember, different people looking at me. Maybe they have a big, huge mansion and they just love it and they enjoy it and they have their fancy cars, which is awesome if they want that. But and then they might go, poor Lisa. She lives in like this smaller house, and I think, yay, Lisa doesn't have to clean or come up with the money to hire people and start do the lawn work.
Yeah.
But so, yes, I can see what you're saying. Like, it's not just about even us ourselves looking at poor other people, but other people might think of us in a way like, I don't like to wear shoes, so I really don't have a lot of shoes, and if I do, they're really cheap because I don't want to wear them. But they may go, gosh, you can't even afford these expensive brand shoes.
Yeah,
right.
I heard a documentary once of it recorded a conversation on the golf course between some ultra rich billionaire people, right? One from the Johnson & Johnson company, right, which is now making even more billions.
Yes.
And it was recorded secretly. They didn't know they were being recorded by his grandson. Actually, it's pretty funny. But they're having conversation on the golf course. These filthy rich people, and the one guy says, these days I don't know how anybody can get by on less than $30 million a year.
Cool.
No, really.
Many people, oh my gosh! Wow. Yes, and he really believes that.
He really believes that.
Yes.
That's his basic nut. That's his basic get by.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's in fact. So of course he's going to look at poor people from his completely myopic perspective and say they must be very unhappy. When in fact he's the one that's unhappy.
Right. Or even if he is happy, well, no, he wouldn't, because then he would be. Would a person, if they don't feel that way about somebody else, like, they must be unhappy? Does that mean that maybe they are just happy? Like, when I look at other people who, it's just that's the way they are.
What it means is that they've defined happiness by the amount of wealth that they have, so they assume that anybody who doesn't have that isn't happy. And that they must be happy, even though when they actually look at their feelings, they're not. Because if they were, they wouldn't just be wanting more.
Right. Yes. They would be like, well, it's nice that it's here, and if it wasn't here, that it would still be nice, because it's just a different experience would be had.
Yeah, at some point they would, boy, I got enough. How much more do I need? But that never happens. I want more. I want more. I want more. I want more. It's an addiction.
Okay, and so that really plays interesting into the why me thing, because that might be, why am I always broke? Why, usually we don't say, gosh, why do I keep getting all these clients? Why does this money keep flowing in?
Yeah. Yes. What's going on here? No, we don't ask why then, do we?
Right. It's only the why only comes with what you said at the very beginning, was because we want to change something. Like, let me figure this out. We don't ever say, why am I so perfect? My God, this is just incredible. Why? Yeah, I want to do more of it. But Yes. And so, actually, I do want to take this opportunity because it just lends in nicely. Just whilst we're talking about finances and money coming in, I do, and GP, I'm just going to throw this out there to everybody listening. If you do enjoy, our shows, and or maybe you've seen GP do a set songs, or you're part of our group. Hopefully, you are. If you would like to become an affiliate, which is a way of I've been increasing your financial portfolio, but only through, and we only want this through the referring of to GP to like come and find out who he is, what he's sharing, how to do the self-inquiry. If you would like to be a part of an affiliate program, which we are just creating, so it's brand new and we're still doing it, please email us. We'd love to hear from you. And I didn't really set an email up for that, but why don't we just put that at questions@gpwalsh.com. Yeah, and the subject title could be questions or affiliate. Yes, and then we'll do it that way because, the self-inquiry journey is just like, it just took me to like, oh my gosh, wait a second. We don't even need to do it when we're a kid, but once that ego gets in, it's what you just said, GP, it's the complete opposite, and now I have a just tiny question to throw in this one. Non-duality so the self-inquiry, that's what we do. And how does that? How do we define, or how can I add in non-duality here?
Well, non-duality is simply the actual state of things. It's the genuine seeing that life is a single being, a single flow. And just like if you examine under any part of the body deeply under the microscope, you find a bunch of cells, right? Mm-hmm. Those cells are living beings. They are living creatures. You're a walking zoo, okay?
Yeah.
And a bunch of these living creatures are harmonized. They are working together to create and maintain this particular form that you call your body. So in our minds, it's the body, as if it's a thing, right? But it's not a thing. It's a flow. It appears at this level as a thing, but it's made up of literally trillions of living beings harmoniously working together. And if you see that, then you think, well, what about this body then and other bodies? Do they make up a thing that is beyond them? And the answer is yes. And if you look at the entirety of life, it is all one thing. It is not two. And so it is both many and one at the same time. And that's the real meaning of non-duality. The oneness is manyness. And at the center of it is the conscious awareness of it, which is indivisible and irreducible. And so you have the discovery of the self is to find that you are that non-dual, infinite, supreme being, the consciousness of all. And there's only one of us. But there's an appearance of many, which gives the infinite beauty, the infinite mode of self-expression to that which is absolutely non-dual and imperceivable, indivisible, irreducible, undifferentiated, underived, impossible to put into words. And that's what you are.
And it's, oh wow, that is so infinite beauty right there. And so that's why we do the self-inquiry, is to come to the flow.
The self.
The self.
The true self. True self. Not the one you think you are, not the conditioning, which is just the little cells dancing together.
Aw.
Yeah, that's conditioning. You're not the conditioning.
Right.
And the conditioning there is to serve as the vehicle for self-expression for you, the non-dual reality.
I do like the walking zoo, by the way. That was fun. And that brings us right back to, so, I feel like I, after this conversation, can put that question to bed. So why me? I actually will be an observer just to see if that question comes up and what I do with it next. Because now I'm curious to find out, because I can't control it.
Right.
If it ever will show up, like, why is this happening? I wonder if now I'll just go, well, because is it? Yes, it is.
Yeah, you'll see the futility of the asking of the why, and that it's just an old habit pattern. and it's based on the desire to control. And so when it comes up, you'll feel the impulse to want to control and make things different than they are. That's when you simply just sink into your heart and surrender to the moment as it is.
Well, that is so beautiful. I feel like, yes, I would love to hear from everybody who's listening, who, whether you have a question, whether you want to be a part of, sharing and getting this message out. Well, I should say this practice out is the best way to say that, or just what topics would you like to hear about? And just as I know I literally have 30 seconds, I'm going to read one of the questions that statements that came through, and I think we wrapped it all up. We had Bernadette write in that I find that why me is happening when I'm not in alignment with myself, and you said that perfectly, GP, about harmonizing, alignment and harmonizing, and she's trying to control all elements around her, and so that was perfect. So I feel like, and I just read this, so I was like, oh, this is all my ripples flow outward. Is up to me if they become a tsunami, a puddle jump, or a wave worth riding. Yes. And she's going to catch the replay. So thank you, Bernadette, for writing that. And I think that it's about the control. So everybody, we do welcome you and invite you to do the practice of self-inquiry. And if you need help, please reach out to us at, questions at gpwalsh.com, and tune in every week to listen to the Flow of Enlightenment. So thank you, GP, so much. And I hope that you aren't too badly injured from what was supposed to happen tumble. No.
Not too bad, no.
All right, wonderful. We'll see you guys next week then. Thank you, everyone.